talk about the setup position, and in particular how the golf club should really be sitting down on the floor. And often golfers get a little bit confused as to how this should be sitting, but the way that the club should really be sitting is in relation to where it's pointing towards your body. And what you're looking to do is, when you take your setup position, is if you were to extend the club shaft, you want it pointing somewhere in between your sort of belt buckle to belly button region, okay? And that is kind of what you want. So if you were to have your hands down too low, something like so, this is something that would be kind of wrong, okay? So you don't want to be in this type of position, and then maybe you want to avoid being a little bit too much this way as well. Now I know with people like that like to adopt maybe the single plane concept of a golf swing, might have more of a temptation to want to be more this way. It isn't something that I would massively advocate, because when the club shaft starts to sit more vertical, it'll sit more in the palm on that left wrist, which will therefore make things like wrist cock and stuff less of a sort of natural movement. So when we sort of take hold of the club, because we grip the club in the fingers, particularly obviously on the lead hand, the heel pad sits on top, which sort of defines your ability to create a wrist cock. So we don't necessarily want to strip that away too much, but anywhere in those sort of region between your sort of belt buckle and your belly button would be absolutely fine. Now, then the question would be, well, does that then change in terms of how the club actually sits, should we say, on the actual impact? And that depends, okay? So just because you start in a certain position, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to obviously return it in the same position. One of the things that's going to happen is that the kind of forces that are applied to the club, it's going to kind of make it sit, you know, when it hits the ball, it's going to end up sort of changing how the club actually interacts with the actual ball itself. So there'll be a little bit this sort of motion when we end up hitting the golf ball. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to sort of build a set of clubs and, you know, get custom fitted if you're sort of, like I say, excessively this way or excessively this way. So as long as you are pretty natural with somewhere in between that position of the club shaft, then how the club actually ends up sort of being delivered at the point of impact is much more about the swing shape that you are currently adopting on, as opposed to your posture. So no mistakes will be made there. I'll see you soon.